recruitment and hiring is worth watching in these two markets because they are the closest to pre-pandemic employment levels. Hello, Jay Denton with LaborIQ by ThinkWhy. When will all the jobs be back? We get that question a lot, as you would imagine. And so we study which jobs are coming back in which industries and in which locations. And there are two markets that I want to highlight today because looking at the size of these markets, they happen to be the closest back to full employment levels. So what I mean by that is if we look at the largest markets that are out there, and these would be metros that have employment bases of 2 million people or more. So they're really, really big markets. Of those, Phoenix is the closest back to its pre-pandemic level. So if we compare now to February, if we broaden that search and we look at the top 50 markets based on sheer population size, well, Tucson is at the top of the list. And so as we analyze these markets, one of the things we want to look at, well, what's driving it there? What's different in these two markets in Arizona than what we're seeing more broadly across the United States? And I think one industry that's an interesting example would be retail trade. And I've spent a lot of time talking to people that are in retail or recruit for retail. They own real estate in retail. And then, the question that pops up every time that we go to discuss it is, will that industry ever be back to what it used to be? I mean, we've had these, impacts from technology. Now you got the COVID impact. Well, if we look at Phoenix and Tucson, they tell a bit different story than what we're seeing nationally. When things got really bad back in, let's say, April, nationally, employment was down about 15% in retail. So pretty big hit. And we're talking about all types of retail at this point. So down 15%. Phoenix was only down about 6 to 7%, and Tucson, I think, was in the -3 to 4% range. So not nearly as impacted during the depths of the pandemic as what we saw in a lot of other markets. And now they're basically back to or above levels that we saw earlier this year. If not, they're very, very close. So that's overall retail. It's doing well in Phoenix. So the general theme you hear doesn't necessarily hold up in every market. If we peel it back a little bit further, what's really doing well in this market, and we do see this type of industry, this type of business doing better than most, would be the general merchandise stores, which would include the big wholesale clubs about, as well as super centers. The stores, the places where you can get just about everything from food to clothing and all sorts of stuff. Those types of businesses in Phoenix and Tucson, they had 15% or so more employees midsummer this year compared to 1 year ago. So big growth from those markets, particularly in that sector. Now, what else is worth noticing is that the retail trade overall, that trend line has started to flatten. So it's been doing well. It's doing a lot better than the national average, but it seems like it got to a certain point, and then now we're seeing a little bit more of a stall in terms of the growth. We'll be watching for that type of thing, whether it's certain industries or certain locations, because until COVID is behind us, there will be some sort of limitation. Again, we'll take Phoenix as an example, which includes Scottsdale. During the winter time, you often have people traveling from the north. They go down south to the Phoenix, Scottsdale area because things are warmer there. And they would often, people would go to these retail locations and do more shopping. So the question will be, until COVID's behind us, will we see that type of travel back into the city and help support this industry? So to stay up to date on those types of trends, whether we're talking about the industries or the locations you serve, visit us at thinkwhy.com/LaborIQ.